Now on the final leg of his UK food tour, and he's landed in the Orkney Islands and kicks things off with a traditional Orcadian fish stew with a dinner jacket to fit the occasion. Have a look.
It's incredible that this journey has ended. This is the last programme. Programme, and my ship, the HMS Gastronaut, rusted, rotten, abandoned by the BBC, no money left, beached here on the Orkneys, where, over the next half hour on this splendid island, I will end up, well and truly, in the soup. To begin, I thought I'd cook an Orcadian chunky fish soup, a simple affair made with fresh halibut, salmon, scallops and sole. But as the cooking process is so simple, a trip round these wonderful islands is essential to create an appetite and to give a sense of place. And here there are more standing stones and ancient monuments than any other place of its size in Northern Europe. Here they came from unknown Stone Age peoples to the Picts, Celtic monks, Norsemen, Vikings and Scots of all types, from religious refugees to cattle thieves. Even shipwrecked Spaniards from the Armada sought refuge here. And in both World Wars, Scapa Flow was the main base for the British Home Fleet, with the rusting remains of sunken cargo boats deliberately placed at strategic points to impede the German submarines. Osorius, the famous Roman travel writer, was dead right in his 5th century guide to Northern Europe when he said, "This place is brilliant for fresh scallops and wildflowers, especially in May." Ha, yes. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. They are beautiful, aren't they, these islands? It's little wonder the Orcadians don't really want to be thought of as Scottish. They're very proud of this place. Anyway, while you've been away, I've been cooking away busily here. My soup's been simmering delicately away, and let me remind you of precisely how I cooked it. First of all, I chopped up some onions, fried them in a little bit of butter, added some vermouth and some white wine, then some fish stock, then I thickened it with some stuff called beurre marnie, flour and butter, then added cream, stirred it round, simmered it for a bit, it's delicious, add my bits of fish. In my case, scallops, salmon, turbot, all these wonderfully expensive things. Well, that's because we like to exploit the BBC mini breaks to the maximum. You, of course, don't have to go to those lengths at home. You could use things, simple fish like cod and congreal, for example, and still have a very fine dish indeed. I think it's time just to taste to see how it is getting on. It's very delicious, but it needs a little salt. I think it's always worthwhile adding this flavouring to delicate things like this at the end. You get the best and the freshest flavour. And incidentally, you've probably seen this. My director wanted me to make a joke, you know, the joke about, I don't think this horse will work again. I thought that was a fairly tasteless thing. This is, in fact, fish stock. And I'm going to add a bit more to my soup now because it's a bit too thick for my liking. So we'll add a little bit of that, stir that in, and I think it is absolutely ready to go. Quick slurp for me. That's better. Silk handkerchief to wipe the drips off my thing with. And let's have a taste, see what we think. Orcadian fish soup. It's heavenly. It doesn't need to be smothered with chopped parsley or fresh herbs or things like that. The subtle flavours of the fish from this wonderful, cool, cold sea around these islands is unimpaired, is beautiful, it's delicious. And so it's off to meet a man from Hoy. And I'm pleased to say that the road was relatively otter-free that morning and there weren't any serious hold-ups. David Hutchinson used to be, in another life, a television cameraman, restaurateur, nurse and writer. But he turned his back on the bright lights of Kirkwall, and by painfully gathering driftwood and flotsam, he set about restoring a tumble-down croft in the search for a more meaningful existence, and the serious business of making crab soup, or parton brie, as the Scots would have it. In his designer kitchen, largely made from discarded fish boxes, he explained.
Making the soup is a dawdle. A junk of butter in the pot, melted.
You didn't rise to me calling calling this a Scottish soup at all.
No, because it's a very much an Orcadian thing. In the old days, of course, you see the people who lived in the little crofts, they only had about 5 hectares of land, which was enough to grow crop for the cattle and a little meal. And they all had little fishing boats, and they went out in the bay, and they all fished for lobsters, which, as you know, are very much sought after and expensive. And often they used to pull up crabs in the lobster pots, and they threw them away. But when times were hard, they always resorted to the sea again to gather crabs. And then, of course, by cooking it in a little butter and some milk,
The milk goes in at this stage.
Yes, well, you can add it all at the same time. Now, a lot of people used to make it with the meat from the back, which is brown, but sometimes you can put white in. It doesn't really matter. The brown just gives it a nice colour, but I often think that the meat from the back of the crab has got much more flavour. So in it goes too.
The whole lot?
The whole lot. If you're going to make a soup, you've got to do it in the grand scale. Could you chuck that in?
Indeed, indeed.
Thank you, sir.
I tell you what, our crew are going to be well fed today for
Yes.
the first time in a week.
And of course, the great secret with this soup is that you just simmer it because it's been cooked already.
What's the difference between an Orcadian... I mean, it's all Scotland, isn't it, at the end of the
No,
day?
certainly not. You would never get an Orcadian worth of salt admitting to be a Scot. We are North Atlantic people. Our origins are Scandinavian. And a lot of people who come up to Orkney express great surprise that we don't speak Gaelic here, which is the native language of Scotland. And Orcadians, too, when they go to concert parties of people who come up from south, and you get some splendid figure strolling onto the stage in a kilt and Highland dress, and then he starts warbling away in a foreign language. It's as alien to Orcadians as Mandarin Chinese or Greek.
Do I detect a hint of bitterness there? No, surely not. David's a man who wants for nothing. He even brews, among other things, his own electricity with the aid of a propeller on the roof. But back to this brilliant soup. Once the cooked crab has been thoroughly warmed through in the milk, you add some fresh cream and thicken it with about 4 generous handfuls of oatmeal, which makes a thick, nutritious and bodybuilding meal. And it takes about 5 minutes to make. But don't serve it as a starter for some delicate little dinner party. It's truly a meal in itself.
So, David, in the words of the old song, you cooked it, so I'll serve it.
Very good.
It does look splendid. It does look splendid. Here, get your
Thank you, sir.
eating tackle around that, as they say. What do you reckon?
Oh, yes.